Hey everyone, welcome back to Rocky Unscripted, where we talk about faith when Sunday is over. I'm sitting with some friends here and some guests, and we are talking about Enneagram 8s. Okay?
Who's not your friend?
Oh, it's not important.
Who's not your friend here?
That's not important. That's not important.
Okay.
But today we have brought back both Matt and Amanda to join Mitch. And good to see you again, Mitch. It's been a while.
What's up, Nick? We're talking about type 8s.
You're channeling.
Are you
channeling
trying to
Matt
get
Cody.
all puffed up?
Yeah.
I recognize the impression.
Did you do
I'm
some
ready.
push-ups before the episode?
Talking like Amanda, huh?
Yeah.
I can tell. Yeah, I can tell.
Amanda.
Matt, it's been, how long has it been since you've been on the podcast?
Probably about 2 years.
I was going to look it up, and then I realized I wasn't
Last
quite
time I was
interested
here.
enough to actually find those
Last
facts.
time I was here, it was in a different room, much darker. No, maybe I did one in here.
Did you have a camera on you last
Matt,
time?
we
No
did.
cameras, which I don't like what's happening with these
I think
cameras
we've done
right now.
6 months of episodes in this
Because
room.
Nick doesn't even look at me. He's just looking at that
He's
camera.
looking at his camera.
That
All
was
he
just
cares about.
that was just to intro the show.
Makes me feel like I'm not even here.
You're just-
Sometimes I
might
wish.
not be the
Sometimes I wish you
I'm just
weren't.
gonna look right at my camera the whole time.
Did you listen to the episode, our very last episode with Vanessa?
No.
Okay, good, because we talk about you.
She told me.
Did she?
Oh,
She
uh-huh.
she was like, "Hey, you need to know."
She said-
we all said you weren't very good.
Well, I said, how did it go? And she was told me about the story about the roofers next door, and she was very concerned about that.
Oh no, it was perfect.
And then she said, hey, just so you know, Nick and Amanda said some mean things about you. And I
Yeah.
said, I get it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of had. We kind of had to.
I
do
say
you
mean
not?
things about you guys, too. So it's, it's fine.
You need a podcast, though.
Yeah.
So some of you are wondering, why does this episode feel so different? One, it's because Matt and Amanda, you guys have been on the show, I don't know, 500 times each. So you're very comfortable, too comfortable in some regards. And then
wishes we weren't here.
also we are talking about Enneagram 8s, and Enneagram 8s are very, 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 very confident, right?
That is true.
So they bring this confidence into, I don't know, everything. But we're excited to dive into the
That was like-
conversation.
You look
That was like
excited.
the nicest way you could say that, but you still said it in a way that didn't seem very nice.
Ooh, so passive aggressive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
that was good.
We already went through that
Yeah,
with
yeah, yeah.
sixes, and
Yeah.
and maybe we'll get to it with 9s.
Oh, we will, yeah.
Okay, good. Good. So today, before we dive in, I'm just curious from you guys. I know how you found the Enneagram, at least I think, because we all went through it as a staff. I think that's how you found it. But can you just talk about your experience, like finding out you were an Enneagram 8? What was that like? How'd you find out, and how did it sit with you?
We did the Enneagram as a lead team.
Like a test?
Yeah, the first time that I really knew about the Enneagram.
I'm curious, though, did you think you were an 8 from the beginning?
Yes.
Because that was not my story. I originally, because when we did that lead team, met with that guy.
What did you think you were?
Well, I tested out as a 7. And I didn't know anything about the Enneagram. So I'm like, oh, sweet, I'm a 7. And then
They sound fun.
yeah,
You did an assessment.
I like adventure.
Did it say 7's your top, and it was just clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't, and I don't even remember maybe where 8 was underneath that. But then, went and met with him, came back to lead team. And then I think that guy was leading, and he was like, hey, we're trying to figure out where Matt might be. And he was asking the team questions. Like, is he more like this or like this? And then everything was like, oh, he's not that.
Yeah.
He's an 8.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the first moment that I was like, oh. And I knew nothing about the 8.
And I would, I think there's probably some people that know you guys and like, oh, if they hear the descriptions of the Enneagrams, the different types, they might say, oh, 8. Yeah, I totally see it. But I can also see this. Amanda, you were in a role, several roles for years where you weren't the main leader. You weren't the main decision maker. I mean, obviously you had responsibility. So I could see how it may surprise some people. And then Matt, I know that you're not the kind, I was joking that you bring that confidence into every room. You're also very content to sit back and let others lead a meeting, lead the show. You don't have to be the one. And I don't know if the camera caught that, but Matt just pointed at Amanda. So I could see where, there still needs to be some of that like exploration to figure out what is the type that resonates most.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, Mitch, why don't you give us kind of that overview picture of just the Enneagram 8 as a whole?
Yeah. So, and I would love to hear what you guys think about this, and like if you would add anything
to this. But the general motivation is really just to be strong and to avoid feeling vulnerable. Amanda, we actually had a conversation a little bit about that.
We did
a couple days ago. So anyway,
I told you how much I hate vulnerability.
Yeah. But it's really that avoidance of that. In terms of like what eights typically focus on, they want to make sure that nobody is controlling them. They pay attention to solutions and results. And so Enneagram 8s typically like to have this macro view and macro control. But then if things aren't going the way they view, they're not getting the solutions or the results they want, they can get into the micro side of it and become more micromanaging to try to control the solutions and the outcomes and the results of those things. And then they really focus on their efforts in expand their influence. They want to have a wide range of influence and control around them. And then the worldview, the way they show up in the world, is that they see the world as a tough and unjust place in which only the strong survive, and good things happen to those that take control and seize that control. And kind of like threes have the world is made up of two types of people, winners and losers. The Enneagram 8s have this same kind of a similar view of the world of like, hey, there's strong and then there's weak, and I'm going to choose to be strong and push away and push down that vulnerability. So in a really quick nutshell, that's kind of the motivation, the focus, and kind of the worldview of an 8. How does that resonate with you guys, sit with you? Would you add anything with that?
No, it's pretty much, I resonate with all of those things, unfortunately, that you said. Yeah.
So I'm curious, you say you resonate with, is there anything that you're like, not so much?
Not really. Definitely don't tolerate weakness. Maybe not tolerate. That's not fair. No, that's probably fair.
Yeah.
I don't like weakness, and I don't like weakness in myself. I don't like it in others. We have this joke at our house. Somebody asked Dee the other day, he has to get a knee replacement again. And they're like, how's that going to go for you? And he's like, well, 18 years ago would have gone very different than now. Like, I'm no longer sick. It's a miracle. Like, you get married for 29 years. And he's just like, you just not weak because it's not worth it. Yeah. And the part about control, definitely, I like to be in control. Everybody in the room can agree with that. I don't like vulnerability. We had this conversation the other day, Mitch and I, about vulnerability, and I was physically uncomfortable. I'm like going to the door 5 times. I want to leave. I think that's some of when I'm done with a conversation, if it's going to a certain spot, I'm like, I'm good. I'm out. See you later.
Yeah.
And that's based on vulnerability?
Yeah. Like we're going too far, going too deep in this conversation, this feels too vulnerable. Like, good. See you later.
Gotcha. Okay. What about you, Matt?
Yeah, definitely the vulnerability piece. Maybe even more specifically, a sense of like, you can't hurt me, but even more so if you did, I'd never tell you. So that's definitely a big piece that hasn't served me well throughout my life. That idea with just relationships and friendships, but I think that's a big part for sure. Anti-vulnerability, and really have trouble even like explaining that to people. Like, how they're like, well, why is that such a big deal? And it's like, I don't know. I feel so uncomfortable in my own skin. I feel might as well just be naked. That's how I feel.
When you're vulnerable.
Yes. Yeah. I feel so uncomfortable. So that's a big piece. The being in control deal, I think for me, it's more of, I'm okay not being in charge, but if the person in charge is doing a bad job, then I want to be in charge. There's something in me that wants to kick in and go, let me take this. Do you just assert yourself in it and almost just take it? Yeah, sometimes. If it's just like, hey, this isn't working, or it's chaotic, then there's something in me it just is hard to sit there and watch it burn. But if the person who's in charge is doing it, great. Go for it. Like, I'll take this one off. This is awesome. So I don't feel like I have to, but if it's not going well, then there's something in me. It's like, I got to get in here because this is not going well. So
Where have you seen the positive sides of being Enneagram 8? Where has that been helpful? Because it's easy to talk about the things that are like, oh, this has got me in trouble, or this is, but what are the spots? What are the areas that's like, this is great?
For me, I think it's, hey, we can move things forward. We bring energy to, hey, I want to be involved in discussions that have a lot of impact. And for me, that's super enjoyable. I'm not so much in the details. I'm kind of cruising at 30,000 feet and seeing where we're going, and want to make sure we keep going in that direction, and what do we got to do, and handling really big things. I feel like I've learned to delegate well over the years, and getting out of the way of things, and really taking on things that I know, hey, this is my sweet spot. This I do well, and there's other people who do these other things really well. And so, yeah, I think there's just that. There's a passion, there's an urgency, we got to keep going, I feel like 8s, our pace is usually pretty fast compared to other folks. And I think there's times when that's really good.
Yeah.
And then there's times that can not be so good. But I think we're kind of the ones out front, maybe a little bit more, and going, come on, let's go. We got to go.
Would you agree, Amanda?
Yeah.
Or what would you add?
Definitely the pace thing, getting things done. I think not afraid to make decisions, and probably not overthinking like the decision-making process a lot. Just like, okay, I think I've got the facts, got what I need. I'm going to make a decision. So yeah, the pace thing.
Would you say it's more of like this gut decision? You almost know what the answer is. You just do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not like, I don't need to process this thing. I just know.
And I'm not
what it is.
I think as an 8, you're not evaluating a bunch of feelings of like, how's this going to make so-and-so feel? Or how's this it's like, no, like this is the right decision, have the information I need. Like I said, and you're moving forward confidently, in a decision. I think in conflict situations also, don't really shy away from conflict. I mean, I'm not looking for it, but I'm not afraid of it or to approach the situation. So I think that's healthy, in an organization, or like, hey, we say what needs to be said, hopefully through growth with a balance of grace and truth, but still saying like, hey, this is what needs to be said. This is how we move forward. It's part of that moving forward pace process, I think.
Yeah.
You're not spending a lot of energy sideways of worrying about what other people are thinking or feeling, and that can be negative or positive, but I think it can move you forward.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the other things I've read about 8s, and I would love to know if you guys feel like this is true, especially in leadership positions, it's almost like how to get the right people in the right positions to move forward. You have almost like a leadership barometer as well as like, hey, I got this person in this position, and now I can trust them to go move. They're going to help me accomplish this mission, but I don't have to constantly be on them all the time. And if I do, then there's going to need to be a change.
Yes. I mean, I can definitely very much resonate with that. I mean, put the right person in the right position, and I don't want to micromanage them. Don't feel too like, I want to enable you to go do your job, do it right. I'm confident of that. Go.
In that regard, I can see, and I've seen you guys play this role, but you are on staff. I'm picturing people that are leading organizations or businesses. I could see an 8 being someone who would be great to bring in to say, help me identify the problem and point me in the direction to fix it. Because I think you guys, that's something I've noticed in you. You can be in a meeting and be like, hey, this situation, this circumstance is not good. I don't have all the details on how we should fix it, but I think we should do this or this. And it's succinct and it's identified like that.
Yeah, I think like before I knew anything about Enneagram, I would have said something like, yeah, I feel like I'm pretty good at reading people. I can read people. In fact, if I have trouble reading someone, it really freaks me out because it doesn't happen often.
So if you have trouble, do you find that over time you were right or you were wrong?
I just think it's a red flag.
Gotcha.
I create distance.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't feel safe. So I'm like, I can't read you. So we're not going to hang out.
It's almost like, hey, I could be vulnerable if I get too close to this person.
Yeah,
so now I'm just going to put them away.
Yeah. I can't get really a beat of what's going on. So before Enneagram, that's what it said. Man, I just feel like I can really, really understand people, read people, figure out what's going on. Kind of, there's a puzzle, I can put it together, and then every once in a while you can't read it. So maybe now as an Enneagram, saying, oh yeah, I'm an 8. It's just, there's just gut feeling sometimes. You can't really explain it. And even like with Vanessa, when, with our friends or we go out with folks, I just say, hey, I'm probably not getting any closer to those folks. And she'd be like, why? I'd be like, I'm just not. It's just something.
There's something going on.
Just something going on, and we're good. We'll hang out every once in a while, but I don't think we need to hang out with them.
You could be acquainted. You're not going to be like their enemy.
That's no.
But they're not going to be close.
That's right. And I can't always explain it, but there's just something in me that's going, gotcha. This is where the distance we need to be. This is good.
Well, I think that's good. Thanks for sharing. I think that gives us a good kind of overall picture. I would love to start going into the instincts that'll lead us towards, the different subtypes. Do you want to give us kind of an overview of all three?
Yeah,
first?
yeah. Let me give you just a quick overview, and then we'll dive into the self-preservation one first, and then we'll pause in between each one and just say, hey, how does this sit with you? Do you resonate with any of it, none of it? Where are you at? And then anything you want to add. So really the big picture is the Enneagram 8s, the self-preservation, they want to assert their strength to get what they want. They have this clear picture of what they want, and they will do anything they need to do to get that thing. The social 8s, they assert their strength on behalf of other people. They don't need to be as in control as the other two 8s from an upfront standpoint. They're more okay leading from the middle or in the context of a group. And then the 1-to-1 8s, they assert their strengths to capture a crowd. One of the words that is used to describe the 1-to-1 8s is this possession. They try to almost possess this, like gather these people around so that they know that they have this influence and this control. So that's a really quick overview. We'll dive into the self-preservation. Here's a couple things you need to know about the self-preservation 8. And the first thing is they know what their needs are, and they will satisfy those needs. And so they have a strong desire for the satisfaction of material needs and an intolerance of frustration. And they have a hard time being patient when it comes to not getting their needs or their desires met. And this intolerance creates a ruthlessness about going after what they want and finding ways to get around people who might stand in their way.
Why are you guys laughing?
Is this Amanda? This is Amanda.
Okay, are you? Right? Are we there yet?
I don't even know which one Amanda is, but this is Amanda, right?
Well, we'll find out here in a moment.
This is it.
Yes.
Okay.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Why?
Okay.
I mean, why are you imposing your opinion?
No,
on
He's
my
being
goodness?
assertive right now.
He didn't say
He's
this
being
was you,
assertive.
but
But something about it just was like, oh,
Yeah.
this must be Amanda.
Something about it made you want to say, "Stop right there. That's her."
I do.
Yeah.
But then you're like, "Oh, I don't mean I was just about to say."
Keep going.
Keep going.
I don't know if this
Keep
next
going.
sentence is going to help out.
Keep going. This is so fun.
So as a part of this, this needs of being satisfied, they have a feeling of omnipotence, this powerfulness, and they're very, very direct, very powerful presence, really a pillar of strength for other people. And people feel this, they can go to this person and feel safe and feel cared for by them. Very, very strong. And they're willing to also go against whatever they need to in order to get their needs met. So the second thing is they hold their cards very close to their chest, meaning that they don't feel the need that they have to share everything with everyone. That's trying to keep people at arm's length, keep people at a distance. And they don't feel like they have to explain themselves very much either. They can just be direct with the thing and then move on to the next.
Matt's being bad. So what was that last sentence? Say it again.
They are really the least expressive of the 8s, and they don't have to talk much or want to reveal very much.
Yeah.
Do you have something to say?
That's good. I'm just affirming.
Okay.
You're doing a good job.
The last thing you need to know about self-preservation eights is they have a very independent strength about them, and they are survivors who communicate strength without feeling the need to explain themselves, and in their need to be strong to meet their needs, they may devalue feelings and may not be aware of the damage that causes to other people. They're very strong, powerful, direct, productive, and but at the same time may generate a dependency from other people because as people gravitate towards them in their strength, people can rely on them too much for that to accomplish what they need to accomplish as well. And so and then they're also excellent negotiators. They know how to, again, because they're seeking to using their strength to get what they want, they know how to negotiate very well with people.
One of my favorite things to do is barter when I'm in.
I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand. You're good at it.
In Kenya. I love it.
Yeah.
Wow.
When we go on a trip, people will be like, hey, Amanda,
I hate
will
that
you
so much.
barter for me? And I'm like, yes, game on. Here we go. So much so
because is it kind of a game? That's what it feels like.
I love it.
Yeah,
yeah, it's fun. I enjoy it. Yeah.
So much so that this time when we were in Kenya, we're at this place and we're bartering, and D, my husband, walks up to me at one point and he said, Amanda, they need to eat too. And I was like, I mean, you're not wrong.
Touche.
But
you're like, you're gonna pay me. Wasting my time.
He's like, that's enough. You've gone far enough.
He's like giving them money, like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Dee's
I'm
paying
sorry.
She's like, I got such a good deal. Dude's like, I paid all the rest.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, so
yeah.
all the things that Mitch just said, you a minute ago said, I'm a self-pres. So,
yeah, because Matt interrupted the conversation to make sure that everyone knew that I was a self-pres.
I was trying not to, but
so I just thought I would confirm. No, I mean, very little of that is not true about me. And I don't even know what part of it would be not true.
Yes, it's all true, probably.
Yeah.
so far, that sounds really strong.
For sure. Yeah.
And Matt,
I do like to negotiate. I will figure out a way to get my way. What are all of the other things?
The holding the cards close to the chest, not having to, I don't need to explain myself to anybody or give long explanations for anything.
No, I don't want to give them, and I don't want to hear them either. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can resonate with all of it. Also, I mean, I think there's a piece in there that's interesting about people kind of like coming to me like for strength or whatever for them to go out and do what
you're
they
really
need
this pillar of strength
to do. That's interesting because I think what sometimes could be seen as like micromanaging, and Matt will give me a bad time about this, about people coming to my office all the time, showing up at my door.
It's a lot.
And I'm like, that's probably that. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I have recognized that until now, but potentially.
Yeah.
Creating that, not creating a micromanaging. It's creating
unintentional. But you've created this dependency because of the strength, and people recognize that you know what you want and you want it done a certain way. And so it almost can create this like, oh, maybe I can't do it my way because I have to make sure it's done this way, or I'm going to have to redo it.
Interesting.
Potentially.
I think Amanda works at like a closer distance than I do with people. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I think that's one of the differences. I think people have even worked with both of us. If you're like, hey, they're both 8s, I think they'd be like, yeah, I get it, but you're very different. Yeah. I think that's one of the big differentiators between us of just, I'm all right back here, but there is a closeness. And yeah, you just sit. Although it's gotten a lot better. I mean, I would joke like, you have to shut the door in Amanda's office or you're not going to be able to meet. Because within 30 minutes, there's 5 people poking in. Yeah, it's driving me crazy. So,
and there's strengths and weaknesses with that. We already said that.
Yeah.
I would imagine there's some people, some personalities that would love that, and some that would rather work with you. You know what I mean? Because it's like, Matt's just gonna like leave me alone more.
Yeah.
But then also there's ways that we can grow within that. You know, some of those
I
ways.
can be so hands off that my people begin to think I don't care. Yeah. Like I've done some, and I'm like, no, my trust in you is so high. I don't feel like I need to check in.
It's more of that macro micro. Like if you're not doing it, then I'm in your business.
That's what I've said. They're like, oh, you don't care if I do a good job. And I'd say, well, if you don't do a good job, you're going to see me a lot more. Like that's the balance in my, like, that's how, to me, I'm like, I'm rewarding you. You don't have to see me. I trust you. Go do it.
I would argue too, the pace at which we sit with people though is different. Like Matt might not have as many, like he's not interacting. They're wondering if he cares. But I think when Matt is sitting with them, and maybe you don't agree, but I think he's more in the conversation, sitting with them better. I may be having more interaction, but I want those interactions to be like quick. Get in, get out, say what you got to say.
Yeah.
Go about your business. Like,
Yeah.
so I think we interact. It's different.
Amanda's over there like juggling. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Matt,
I want to see that, by the way.
Did you resonate with any of those things? Did you like
With me?
Yeah.
Not so much. But one of the things I do want to point out too, the reason why I started laughing, because the second sentence our brother said right here was something about like possessions or something.
Building
Materials.
Yeah.
Or what was that? Something about
like a strong desire for the satisfaction of material needs.
Yes.
And an intolerance of frustration.
And I do pick on Amanda a lot on that because she doesn't think that is true probably about her. So I like to pick on that. And I just love that was the second sentence. Like,
I don't know that is true about me.
he just...
So self-preservation in general cares about, it's this like safety and security.
Yeah.
And so for some types, it goes more towards possessions and things that help you feel more secure in who you are.
Interesting.
You think I care about things more than I care about
Okay,
things.
but
We're going to
also
have an argument
let's
about
put this
but
into perspective.
Let's do.
Amanda, I think if you walk in with a new pair of shoes, Matt's gonna be like, must be nice. Got a new pair of shoes. Because we all know Matt would also wear the same shoes for 6 years and they're falling off.
Yeah.
They're falling to pieces. You know what I mean? So
I've had people in our church give us money. Like, bro, do you
Buy
need some
some
money for
shoes.
shoes? I'm like, I got money. I just don't want to buy shoes. Yeah. We are totally opposite in that.
Yeah.
I think in that regard. And it's not just she got a new pair of shoes, Nick. It's that every day it's a new pair of shoes. Okay, it's the regularity of it.
Okay.
That draws attention. It's not like once every 6 months. It's like every Monday.
well, I think some people would hear that and be like, you're only allowed to get one pair of shoes every 6 months?
Right.
Like
In my world, yes.
Exactly.
In my world,
exactly.
that makes sense. I'm wearing a new shirt today that I've had.
It looks really good.
I mean, when I get new clothes, though, people are like, whoa, because I wear the same shirt for 5 years. I mean, Amanda will like say, don't wear that shirt anymore. And
I don't want you to wear that shirt ever again.
And we all know what shirt it is. That
Has it been multiple?
Oh, yeah. It's
Yes,
a couple
but-
shirts over the years.
I mean, I do like shoes.
That's
I don't
okay.
know.
It's okay, yeah.
Yeah, you
good.
can like shoes.
And then the frustration thing. What's the sentence about frustration?
So
I have a low tolerance for frustration.
low tolerance of frustration.
Yeah.
And it can be incredibly frustrating. So you just find a way around or through people if they're
Sounds so bad.
All of this sounds like
around.
I'm a
Don't tell me.
terrible.
You ain't gonna tell me
It's
what
a
to
little,
do. I
it's
do
a
what
little
I want.
slanted right now. It's a little slanted.
Yeah.
It sounds
I know what I
like,
want. I'm gonna do what I want, however I want,
listen, without Jesus.
with my new shoes.
oh yeah.
For sure. Yes. I mean, we can talk about that later at some point, but it is interesting because just the core of who you are. Yes. And insert no Holy Spirit, no Jesus, no growth. And it's like, I am a terrible human.
Yeah.
And then
I felt that way when we
hopefully-
were talking about self-pres sixes, which I
Yeah.
identify with. I was like, can we stop this
Yes.
recording? I don't want to talk about this.
You know, I feel like that's been kind of the theme. I mean, even Becky's like fives. Why would anyone want to hang around a five? after we were going through this. Like,
And she, just to clarify, she is a 5.
my wife is a 5.
Right.
Yeah, but
I didn't want people to think
Yeah.
I listened to that episode and I hate 5s. Yeah, she's a 5. Sorry, keep going.
I love 5s. Yeah. So anyway, but I think it's just kind of this theme
Yes.
through all of these
Yes.
is like you hear this like, oh my gosh, that's tough. But
But
again,
I've grown to appreciate who I am too.
Yes.
I do want to say that because even though I listen to this and I'm like, gosh, there's some really hard things in there. There are things that I'm like, no, that does make me who I am, does make me a good leader, does make me have the ability to function
Yes.
well in life.
So-
and I don't know, to be where I am today.
one of the things I read recently too was when there's a self-pres female 8, they're actually tend to be warm and friendly also, which is interesting.
No, I see that. I absolutely see that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Matt made a face. So you don't think I'm warm and friendly?
You guys are just you have it in for each other today.
I wouldn't use the word.
We've been in meetings
I
all
wouldn't use the
morning
word
together.
warm.
I would say
I
this.
think most people in
Yes.
our just at my campus would say yes, Amanda is warm and friendly.
Yes.
Now, people who know me well, i.e., you that I work with every day, you probably would not say Amanda is warm. Like you're all like, nope, we're not saying that.
No.
I mean,
I think
think so.
I would describe you as warm and friendly. Actually,
I would too. Maybe not warm and fuzzy,
They're
but
saying-
warm and friendly.
They're saying that because they're scared of me.
Okay, we gotta keep going.
That's why they're saying that.
We gotta keep
move
going.
on.
Yeah.
So-
Hey. I get it, guys.
Again, I don't know what camera shot Katie was on just then. Matt's giving a lot of winks. A lot of winks right now.
Hey,
let's
warm and
move on to
friendly.
what move on to what Matt is.
Oh,
Should we?
okay.
So
So
I don't know if this is it, but we're going to move on to the social.
and most likely there's going to be a couple of these that you guys identify with.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the past episodes, we talked about stacking, and you have one primary instinct that you work out of, and then one you probably swing to, and then one that is probably underutilized and not, you don't resonate with at all.
Yeah.
So the social 8, this subtype likes to assert their strengths on behalf of others. And a couple of things you need to know: they are very much for social justice. They take on the role of like savior and protector to fight against any kind of injustice that they see. They don't, if there's an abuse and authority, they are quick to jump in on that and to take charge. They're very sensitive to injustice and bullying. They'll stand up for the underdog and fight as much as they can for other people. Another thing you need to know is they have a much more cooperative style of leadership than the other two 8s. This is also I didn't mention this, but this is the counter type. So this is the 8 that's actually not trying to grab as much power for themselves, but they're trying to utilize their power on behalf of other people. So they're very much more cooperative style of leadership, finding positive solutions and being open to feedback. They channel their aggressive energy towards serving and protecting others rather than themselves. And they're really genuinely interested in the welfare of other people. They're typically more mellower and less angry or aggressive 8s, and sometimes look almost like a 2 and be confused with a 2. Then the last thing you need to know about the social 8 is they have power in a group. They like the power of a group offers, and they don't need to necessarily be the leader. However, they tend to have a more difficult time with individual relationships because they like the group dynamic and the social feel of the group and find that power in there. So those are some things you need to know about the social 8.
So how does that one fit?
I do not like the group dynamic. So I don't resonate with that at all. That's not.
That's the thing he picks out. I do not
Like the group dynamic. Yeah.
No, it's like, hey, we're going to hang out. Who's there is a big deal to me. So that idea is not energetic at all.
You don't want to do a group think type of a meeting where it's like we're gonna hash this
That's not
out
really
and
what you're
decide together.
talking about. You're talking about like when you're hanging out socially with someone.
Yeah, social aspect. I don't mind so much in a leadership context. I kind of enjoy that a little
Gotcha.
bit. But again, I know all those people.
But they don't have to. So this one, they don't have to be the leader. They're more
Yeah.
okay leading from within the context of a larger group.
Yeah, I might be okay with that. Maybe. And what do you think? No. Okay, great.
I don't think either
the-
one of our social. I mean, I don't resonate at all, except for
There's a
little
social,
bit of the
the
justice
justice
piece.
piece. Yeah, I think it's easy for me to get in on things like Kenya and be like, man, I'm gonna go fight for this and rah rah and get people engaged with it because this isn't right, kind of a vibe. So I can
But
see that.
that's a little bit of an 8 overall
That
quality,
is,
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
The 8 overall really cares about justice, just in general. But it's almost like another level. It's not about I'm going to exert my power, as me for these people. It's like, no, it's all for these people. There's a little bit different nuance with that.
yeah.
We haven't talked about this a ton, but my wife is most likely an 8. And then when I hear you describe it, it's like there's a lot of that social subtype that sounds like my Amanda. And even she has the same group of friends when we visit California, the same group of friends that she will hang out with, get all the families together. She's known some of these people since, I don't know, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, as far as keeping that group together. That's just one of the examples.
Yeah.
That sounds really, really, it rings true.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Like move on
Yeah. I
to
just
the next set of friends. I don't mean that as a critique.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, I probably have a little bit more in this one than the first one. I feel like the first one I'm really far from.
Okay.
Amanda, maybe a little bit here, if you're talking about the stacking thing, but not a lot either. Yeah.
I mean, I agree. I'm probably just normal justice oriented
Normal
as an
level
8.
of justice.
Yeah, not like, hey.
What's normal? Were we just talking about this?
Yeah.
Normal justice.
Yeah.
I'm not like over the top. That's where
Yeah.
I'm leading from, kind of a
Yeah,
thing.
I
I mean, I care about it. And when it comes up, if I see it, I'll speak up against it for sure.
Yeah.
Care about what's fair, what's just for people, but not that intensely.
Yeah.
But there's an interesting thing about the self-pres that you're talking about. They can, did I write this? I wrote a lot of notes. I don't think I wrote this one down, but you're talking about that pillar strength for a lot of people. And they can gather around that and that 8, that person, and get strength from that person. How is that different than the social? That element of the self-pres.
It's more of it's more of a, hey, I am strong versus, and you should follow me because I'm strong and I know where I'm going. Versus I'm strong for you.
Yeah.
I'm strong for you. I'm strong for you. I'm not just strong for me. I'm strong for you.
Gotcha.
And that's the big difference is that both and that's really why it's the counter type is because it's not the strengths for themselves. It's the strengths for others.
What were you saying that?
I wish you could be strong for me sometimes.
Oh, I am.
You're strong for you. You're strong for you.
Okay, here's another example about my wife. Her mom, my mother-in-law's had to have lots of surgeries, knee replacement, shoulders, like all just different kinds of surgeries. And when she was in middle school and high school, Amanda would always stay home from school to take care of mom. So you're talking about like they can look like 2s at times, but it was this like my mom is vulnerable and needs help, and I will, not do all these things, and I'm going to be strong for her. Those are because you guys don't identify as that social. These are the things that I'm thinking of.
They can in that again in that pursuit of other and helping other people.
Yeah.
They can neglect themselves and the care for themselves.
I can see that,
and
yeah.
put themselves aside for other people. Yeah.
Where I could see, it's like my mom. Well, I was in college at that time, but if my mom had to be at home because of a surgery or something like that, I'd just be like, of course I'm not going to stay home from school. That's not my job. You know what I mean? Like I think other personalities would be like, I wouldn't even think about that. But the social 8 might be like, no. I'm going to bend over backwards to fight for people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Gotcha. All right, want to keep going? Since you guys are like, no, I'm not social at all.
Yeah, let's get to the best one.
Ooh, let's have some fun with this one.
Oh,
Wow,
please
wow.
let's do it.
Okay. Well, Amanda, feel free to interrupt.
Oh, I will.
If you would like to.
Thank you
Let
for
the man
that.
talk. Let the man talk.
Thank you for that permission, though, but not needed.
Wow. Okay.
Are you nervous, Mitch?
I'm just getting really small. Guys.
Whatever you guys want.
Hey, let's do this. Let's do this.
Do 5 push-ups and you'll look good. Go.
Let's do this.
All right. All day. All right. Are we ready? Are you guys ready?
Are we recording?
I don't know. Okay.
I hope so.
Okay, so this is the 1-to-1 8. They really assert their strength in a very charismatic, charming way for the purpose of capturing.
A lot of impressions going on right now.
Yep, to capture the crowd.
Yeah.
So a couple things we need to know. They are more risk-taking and rebellious of all the 8s. They like the adventure. Matt, you mentioned adventure a little bit ago as well. But they're most outspoken, rebellious. They like to be seen as bad, or at least don't care if people see them as bad.
Funny guy over here.
I'm bad. I'm bad. You know it.
Oh, you got those lyrics right. Usually you don't.
I know. Usually I don't.
And they tend not to feel guilt over rebellious things they do, or if they say something, it's just like, yeah, that's what it is.
Should feel bad though.
And they seek adventure, risks, challenges. They don't mind adrenaline rush. They like that. It makes them feel strong and powerful. Next thing, they are very passionate. They're passionate about forward movement, which makes them particularly intolerant of weakness and dependence and slow people.
Although Matt walks slower than any human I know, but go ahead.
That's the one thing that you're like, I don't know about that one.
They're fast walkers.
Yeah.
There might be other types of slowness.
Okay.
Okay. While they may be intelligent, they express action and passion more than contemplation in the things they do. It's this more of like, I just know, I don't need to think about this. Here's what we need to do. This is obviously, and they get very passionate about those things. The next thing you need to know about self-pres 8s is they can be very possessive. What I mean by that is this, like, capturing the crowd, this possessive of the crowd. They like to feel their power by possessing everyone's attention, and they can give off a vibe that the world begins when they show up. Like, hey, I'm here now. We can actually get started.
Okay. Okay. Yes. And when people don't laugh at your jokes, then
Then what?
then you're like,
These people don't know what's funny.
these people are dumb. I'm never coming back here again because these people are dumb.
Yeah. We'll leave that one.
Please read the last sentence again. It's just enjoyable to my ears.
They give off the vibe that the world begins when they show up.
Thank you.
Wish I could show up in Amanda's new cars. That'd be nice.
This is going downhill quick. The 1-to-1 8s, they collect a small group of people, of trusted people around them, and they can be very loyal and reliable, protective of their friends. Others readily give their power to them, and because they're trying to seek approval and acceptance and a sense of security, because they think, man, this person can keep me safe. However, their presence may also be so strong in a relationship that they become dominant or make other people dependent on them as well. And this is interesting about the 1-to-1 8s. They are unlikely to admit that on some level they seek a true equal in power and strength, someone that can give them guidance, protection, and challenge that they give to other people. They're like, hey, I want somebody else who can actually rival my strength, because then that's like, oh, I don't have to be the one who's doing this all the time. And it just got me thinking, wondering of like if that is somewhat of the dynamic with you guys as well. So
I can totally relate to that.
I don't know if that sounds like me.
For real? That's why 8s.
No,
that's like when you find somebody you can go toe to toe with. That's like enjoyable. Like I don't have to work so hard. You're like, sometimes you feel like I can beat you without trying because you're weak. Whereas Matt, I'm like, no, I got to play the game a little harder. For real. It's like, he's going to go toe to toe with me and it makes you work a little harder, which as an 8, I don't know. There's something about
the challenge
that.
though. It's a challenge. Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you finish the?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
So I'm curious, in all seriousness, how does that sit with you?
Yeah, for sure. In using different words, I would say I feel the best used, or I can use my gifts the best. In the context of leadership, I'd be like, hey, just put me in the room with those people. And I just feel like I can inspire or just woo or vision cast in such a way to go, hey, we all need to go over here. And I would much rather do that than write an email. You know what I mean? I just feel like, let's get in the room. Like, let's, we can figure this out kind of a thing. So yeah, I mean, that definitely resonates with me. I think the small, just relationships, friendships, I don't have many, and very, very small niche. I think there's this thing in me, like sometimes, I don't know if this might just be a general 8 thing, but I think, sometimes I feel like maybe I'm just too much for people. And so because of that, very guarded in the sense of, I hate vulnerability to begin with, but there's just a level of closeness. I just don't let many people get close. In fact, you talk about the, like even Amanda and I, there is a sense in the 8, we've talked about this before, like as people get close, it's almost like something in me that goes, I'm going to see if I can push them away. And if I can, that would be considered a weakness. So we're not going to be friends,
So if you can push them away, it's like, well, I didn't need them anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I would be too much for them, or they just wouldn't be able to hang. And that's why some people would label us maybe as a 8-hole. You know what I mean? I think we can come across aggressive and loud.
Yep.
Some of that is actually just a defense mechanism. And so, when you can like really, potentially try to push someone away and they're like, you good? And it's like, oh, okay, this is interesting. Because most people would have left a long time ago. So I think there is something there. But again, just because of that, there's just not many people that I would feel comfortable allowing to be close.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't want to apologize 50 times every day too.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just that deal like, hey, if you're just going to, cry every time, then.
At that point, you'd be like, this isn't a good fit for either of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that just leads to a place where you got a few really close friends.
Amanda, does any of that resonate with you?
So I don't really relate to the social, but the one-to-one, there's pockets of it. I think Matt put it better. It's not just about beating the people that's weak. It's just like, you try to push people away. I can resonate with that. I think somebody has asked before, like, who's in your circle? And I think my response was no one, which isn't true, but my circle's small for sure. I think you don't let a lot of people in that space for multiple reasons. Kind of like Matt said, you can live in that space of like, I'm a lot. Can people handle this? / you have to maybe behave if you get too many people in that circle. So the circle of people that I'm just me can be fully me without apologizing or have to compensate for maybe who I am is probably pretty small.
Okay, but I would look at you from the outside and be like, you have tons of friends. You have tons of connections. Would you say majority of those people probably you have helped them or you have been strong for them at some point? You're like, that's where that relationship is based on?
Oh yeah, I'm totally comfortable with that. One of my favorite things to do is like, I'm great to take this person and connect those people. And then I'm like, see you later.
Yeah.
Peace out. I'm on to the next thing or people or whatever. Not onto the next thing and like a next relationship for me. Just I'm like, great. Those 2 people connected, did something for you. See you later. Maybe that's using your like power connection or, you know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, I know a lot of people. So I can connect people and then I don't have to do the relational part. I'm basically connecting them relationally so that I can tap out, which sounds terrible on this podcast.
But when you're talking about that self-preservation side, that might be a way that you are protecting yourself and making sure your needs get met. If I can connect you two, then you can help each other, and I can be out. Now I still have more energy to go do the things I need to do. I can see that.
I love to connect people.
Yeah.
And
you're excellent at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would love to talk about, we got into some of the ugly side that, probably feels terrible to talk about. It just does. We joked for weeks. It's like, I can't wait to talk about myself and the sixes. As soon as the episode got here, I was like, I don't like this at all. But let's talk about growth, because you guys have, you've worked hard specifically in the Enneagram and outside the Enneagram to be a healthier person. I'm curious, what are some central things that you've had to be intentional about in order to be a healthier person?
Well, in the context of leadership, I think for me, it's a pace issue, a slowing down issue, and not in my frustration, maybe even potentially in a meeting that it's not going where it needs to go. Or for me, in my mind, this is so simple, and we're going to be in this room and talk for an hour and still not make a decision. I think it's to lead in that room in a way that people will still hear you. And I think early on in leadership, made a lot of mistakes, just getting loud and frustrated. And there's still moments of that, but it's just that pace issue and slowing down, making sure people know I care about them. Because I do care. That was one of the things that dinged me pretty hard. Even just a couple of years ago, I had people on my team asking, like, do you care about me? It's like, yes, I do. What happened here that you don't think I care about you? And so it's just really slowing down, being present. And sometimes that pace is so slow, it is a little painful. But, not everyone's going to go at my pace. And so just to realize that was, really big for me. And a lot of follow-ups for me, especially in conversations that are tension-filled. These are true stories, but I've walked out of meetings here at Rocky and thought that was awesome. We got some stuff done, only to find out there was like someone crying in the corner afterwards, and I'm like, what? Like,
I thought that was a great meeting.
I thought it was the best meeting ever. So I feel like I'm just more aware to follow up and want to make sure, hey, you good? Because I just know my read is not always the right read, and I'm just maybe a little too direct sometimes, little too forward, a little too quick, and it comes across as a negative thing when for me, I'm feeling awesome. We're taking ground, we're making decisions, and people are not really feeling heard or cared for. So I know I can get there, but I've tried to work on that and slow down.
That's good.
So
what would you add, Amanda?
I mean, believe it or not, working hard on that. I don't have to say every single thing that I think in the moment. I say a lot, but learning to pause for the right time and the right way. I think trying to listen better, be curious, spending more time with people instead of being so fast paced, right, Mitch? Like, we've had this conversation. There's times that I get annoyed by like some of the details that people are talking about that I feel like maybe aren't moving anything forward. They're just telling me about their life, and I can get bored with that. So just through chatting with Mitch, he's like, hey, instead of doing this in this environment that is like work oriented, like actually pause and go engage in a different way. And so I'll go like out to the table at lunch now and be like,
just come stand around.
what's up? Like, tell me things that don't matter, but I have to remove myself out of like that work mode, work environment, out of that pace of going. We joke that one day Mitch, walked by and was like giving me the thumbs up. Now I did have to be like, what are you giving me thumbs up for?
Good job, little buddy.
Yep. I'm like, you're really doing it.
Because you were slowing down and
hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was just out listening to their stories, hanging out at the table. I did it again a couple days ago, just trying to grow in that. Like, it's okay to just stop and talk about nothing.
Okay. So I want to get back to growth. So in a moment,
because it's not nothing.
That's what I want to talk about.
And I think that's
go get
and
it.
I think that's the reframing is that's the hard work. You know?
Oh, it's there's something, and it's a big deal for sure.
So this is, I chatted with Mitch briefly before you guys got here, because I realize I have a bone to pick about eights, and it's both with eights and it's both about eights. This is, are you ready?
Well, you're married to one. I feel like
I'm married to one. So I work with two, and I'm married to one. I'm around a lot of eights. But I think any time the conversation about the Enneagram 8 comes up, it's easier for people to kind of chuckle about the shadow side of an 8. It's this vibe of, well, that's just who I am. You know, it's this vibe of that's just who they are. But we love it. And I think a lot of it is based on our society. We love strength, right? I mean, it's this idea of like might is right kind of a thing. Like as long as you get the ends justify the means. It's these are phrases just pulled from our popular culture. And I think it's so easy to hide in that shadow. And then I think the risk is you don't grow. You just pivot. You're just constantly just pivoting either to a new environment, new situation. And I think it comes out, and I'm picking on you. I mean, he just said it, but it's like, but actually both of the things you said.
I didn't say anything, dude.
I need to go at a slower pace. What's in there is my pace is still right. My pace is still the best. I just have to slow down because you guys can't keep up. I'm picking on you.
Yeah.
But that, you know,
I would say it differently, but yeah.
Or
Again,
it's like
you're wrong.
Exactly.
He's right.
Exactly. I need to be less right for them in order to grow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's the bone that I have to pick with eights.
I don't think in the moment though that's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
I think what I'm thinking is like if I'm sitting with somebody on my team, I want to care for you well. I want to lead you well. And I think the realization is it's not everybody's going to go at my pace. In my mind, I'm not dinging you for that because you're not me. And I think early on, like way early on, like mid-20s, I would ding you for that. Like my way is the best way. And then you quickly realize, that's the beauty of the Enneagram. You quickly realize, dude, we're better when we're all here, you know, because we're all bringing something to the table. I think now it's going, I want to serve you well. And I want to make sure that you know that I care for you.
Yeah.
I care about you. And it's not a trick. Like I'm better than you, so I'll slow down to your pace. It's going, now I want to serve you well. And I just know there's just certain conversations here that if I just naturally led them how I would normally lead them, it's not going to be helpful. So it's maybe just a self-awareness of the environment. I think there's certain environments we play really well in. And, you know, I teach from the stage. I think a lot of who I am plays well from the stage. I've been in meetings before, and then there's other places that doesn't play well. You don't want me as a counselor. I know that. That's not where I play my best. You know what I mean? And I've heard Sean say, even with meetings with people, you know, who might be a little frustrated, you know, with me or just, you know, certain things I've led where Sean will say, you know, it's funny. You love it when you see it from the stage. You don't love it when you see it in the room. Change has done it. And the person, you know, and that's not even necessarily defense for me. It's just saying there's certain things about Matt you really love, but you only love it in certain situations. It's almost the reverse of what you're saying. You'll really celebrate it when he's up there on stage. But in the room, you don't like it when he's direct.
Right.
You don't like it when he's saying what he believes to be true.
Yeah.
You love it when he's preaching to the crowd. You don't like it when he's having coffee with you. So I think it's just for me, it's that lesson to go, man, my pace is not always the best pace. I definitely don't want to be a guy that's walking around a room going, yeah, I was an a-hole in that meeting and that's good. I don't want that at all.
Right.
I want to walk out and go, I read the room well. And
Well,
it was at a healthy pace.
I think it's this vibe of like, okay, I spoke the truth and maybe it was the wrong time and I said it in the wrong way, but I'm still right. You know what I mean? I think there's growth when you can say, you know, bottom line, it was wrong. You know what I mean? And not hide behind that. I feel like in our culture, that's what we celebrate. Was he wrong? Was she wrong? You know, no. But I think in other and healthier perspective, it's like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Amanda and I have definitely had moments. I mean, walk out of meetings and be like, you know, I may say, you didn't have to say that. or vice versa. Yeah, we were good.
And you're like, was I wrong?
Yeah, we were good. And it's like, you didn't have to say it like that, or your face said it, or it's like, you didn't have to. But it is hard, I think, for us sometimes there is this passion. There is this like, this is right. This is right. And I think, sometimes
10 years ago, though, if we walked out of a room and Matt was like, hey, you didn't need to say that, or your face didn't need to say that, I would have been like, yeah, I did. Most of the time now I can say, you're right. I didn't need to say that.
Well, I think there's a good balance there, even for us. Just even this week, she'll be like, what do you want to do with this? And she already knows I'm going to say the opposite. And she'll poke fun at it, like, oh, you're going to be soft, you're going to be this. And it's like, no, I just don't think that's worth it. I think we should just do this, right? That's that justice piece inside of us. It's hard for us to let it go. And I think what I've learned, especially since 2020, is not everything is worth dying for. And that's tough for me sometimes. But it's like, Matt, keep your mouth shut. This ain't worth it. There's moments it's worth it. There's moments you want Nate to come in and fight for that thing.
Yeah.
But you don't want him to fight for everything. You know what I mean? It's like, that's exhausting. That's too much. It's too much. And I think that's where you got to figure out the line. And there's moments too where I can feel myself getting worked up. And I'm thinking, this is not worth it. It's not right, but it's not worth me having to walk out of this room and then call up everybody and apologize over what? What are we talking about? It's not that significant. So, but that's the trap, I think, for us. Like, there's right and there's wrong. And when it's wrong, we're going to tell you.
Right.
And that's not always good. So.
There is that, talking about like where that plays off of leading together. I think he's talking about this week when I'm like, hey, I want to do this. And I'm like, it's the right thing to do. I also know Matt as an 8's going to be, he's okay to tell me if it's the not the right thing to do. You know what I mean? Instead of going to the person who's going to be like, we can kind of be like, no, don't do that. That's dumb. And I respect that quickly. And I'm like, yeah, all right. We get to a decision quickly too by being that blunt and honest. Don't have to play the game of challenging it, I guess.
You don't have to explain it all. It's just, here it is. Boom, bap, boom.
Yeah. I think one of the things, Sean, our lead pastor, he was on here for 3s, right? Yeah. So 3s, more a politician. I admire him so much. I've seen him lead in the room in such a way that I go, I wish I could do that. I mean, we have funny stories around here where I've totally blown meetings because I get to the truth too fast, too quick, too cold. And the whole thing blows up, and I think there's moments he looks at me and he's like, dude, chill. Like, we had it. The reverse is also true, where sometimes he says so much, he doesn't say anything at all. And I'm leaning and going, they don't even know what you said.
Yeah.
And it's fun I love being in meetings with him in those kind of environments, because he'll come out and be like, do you think they knew what I was saying? And I go, no, I don't.
Okay. But what you just said about you in meetings in the past, I think is my point. And that is, I think sometimes with 8s, it can be like, I can see things too clearly. I'm too correct, and I know too much, and my pace is too fast. So I just got to slow down and, whatever. As opposed to looking at it and I'm just making this up on the spot, so this might totally fall apart. As opposed to looking at it as like salt. Like, salt is one of the most important ingredients in any food, right? It would be stupid for a chef to be like, I added way too much salt and people just can't handle my salt. It's like, you ruin the dish. You ruin that food, and it's ruined. And let's just accept that it's ruined. You put too much salt. In those meetings, it wasn't like, I was right, and they just couldn't handle it. Sean is able to step in and go, dude, you ruined that meeting.
You blew that one up.
I think that's my point. I think there's health in recognizing that it's not that I just have too much good and people can't handle it. It's like, no, you need to be able to temper that for the betterment for you and others.
I think one of the things over time you wrestle with in a healthy way to go is you can see it. This is the right thing to do, blah, 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 whatever. But I want to get there without a bunch of dead bodies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to get there with the team. And because because if you eventually, let's say you were right and you get there and you're like, I was right, and you're the only one there.
Yeah.
that's not good either. And I think that's the challenge to go. And I think I'm old enough now to go, I'm not always right. I just know that. I've had moments where I thought I was right and I was wrong. So I see the beauty of other people on the team and listening when it's different than maybe what I'm feeling is right. And knowing there's been moments when I was wrong. And it's even hard to admit that.
And I would imagine that's an important piece to the growth process for an 8.
It is. I mean, while seeing things from other people's perspectives is typically a challenge for an 8, because it's like, I don't need to see it from your perspective because it's that gut instinct of knowing what to do. And then also not only recognizing, oh, I was wrong, but then making it right with that person. And that's the next that
goes in with that vulnerability piece. And I would say this too, just in growth, this is much more personal. It falls into the leadership aspect too. But I mean, you've been in rooms with me in meetings. It hasn't happened often where I've cried. I mean, those moments are few and far between. To admit anything or to express emotion or feeling is happening just a handful of times. But I think you realize I have definitely over the years, your depth of relationship with people is closely tied to your vulnerability. And I think that's a learning deal too.
Yeah.
But I think it's easy to be cold when you're not vulnerable and there isn't a depth of relationship. That doesn't play well if you're inviting people to be close and still be cold. And so I know that's been a big challenge for me in my own marriage I've got 4 girls, learning to be vulnerable with them and have a depth of relationship that I'm not just dad in the sense of, I'm that guy and this and this and this, but to actually engage with them and offer them a closer view. You know what I mean? Yeah, things hurt dad too. That is so foreign to me, yet I know it brings out healthy things. And to do that with my team and for people around here too, I think it helps with that coldness, because the opposite of that would be like a dictator, or to lead out of people that are afraid. I don't want people to be afraid of me. That's not a good thing. You know what I mean? Or that I have my pastor card and you just do what I tell you to do. I think those are the easy defaults for 8s to get to. And I'd rather lead out of relationships and influence, and I'd rather not have to make people do certain things. So it's a good challenge for me to be like, hey, to have that depth requires some vulnerability, but I feel incredibly uncomfortable doing those things. But I've seen the benefit of it.
I mean, and that's another practice is like really this showing your human side. You need to be human with other people, and people are going through difficulties and challenges, and not just being this like, hey, I'm just going to be strong for you, but like, man, I've been there too. It sucks.
Yeah.
And, listening to people and just being there with people and sharing life together and allowing vulnerability to come out, because, one of the things we say, especially in groups, is like vulnerability begets vulnerability. And when you're able to be vulnerable, that helps other people open up and share their stuff as well. And I know it's hard, like positionally, where you guys are at, and then even Enneagram type, there's a couple dings against that wanting to be or needing to be, but it's so important to be.
Yeah.
So we are coming up on time. Mitch, is there anything else you would add to things to think about heading towards growth as an Enneagram 8, or did you hit it all?
Yeah, I mean, I hit the major ones when we talk about the gospel with Enneagram 8s. I mean, one thing, maybe this is another conversation for another time, but how have you guys seen the gospel impact your Enneagram type or soften it in your relationship with other people, and just how Jesus has really worked on your life and your heart?
I mean, that's why I made the comment I made earlier. I think it's like, you kind of are who you are through, life circumstances. And I think, you develop some of this as an 8, I think, from having to survive. That's my story. Just, parents divorced, crazy childhood. So you kind of already go into that survival mode. And I think, coming into a relationship with Jesus, I say I lived the first part of that, probably first 4 years of just kind of still in that I'm in control kind of a thing. Got cancer, very big realization that I'm actually not in control of anything. And so that was, such a huge growth opportunity for me. Like, I'm not in control of my time, of what life looks like, of taking my next breath. You have a big realization in that. And just even vulnerability. I've had to learn to be vulnerable in that. Like, God gave me that experience to share it with other people and in my own story. Like, you don't share some of that and you take away the credit he deserves for that. So it's just the power of the gospel. Like, why does it exist if you're not going to share it and be vulnerable on a level with it? So that's been a big growth opportunity for me, for sure.
What'd you say, Matt?
Yeah, I think the gospel reminds me, I've not been called to be right. I've been called to be close. And when I deliver truth or have conversations about truth, I want to do it in a way that I hopefully can still be heard. And so, yeah, it's almost like I'm much more sensitive about maybe my 8-ness with people who don't know Jesus than maybe even friends and family. But I feel a level of sensitivity like, man, I do not want this person to walk away from Jesus because of me. I want to bring them closer. And so I tend to just be a little bit more aware of what I'm saying and how I say it. In fact, I tend to be probably very critical of, maybe naturally what I do, but with people who don't know Jesus, I'm just that guy going, hey, approach matters, approach matters, approach matters, approach matters. It's not just about being right. And I'll say that, like, hey, when you're in a conversation, you're having maybe a tough one, I want that person to walk away and go, man, Matt doesn't agree with what I think or what I said, but I know he loves me. Like, that's the goal, And so, I just feel like that's in my relationship with Jesus. That's what I'm the hook for.
Yeah.
I don't want to get up to heaven one day and he's like, dude, you were right, but no one would listen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, no, I want to have influence. Because I believe the gospel can change people's lives, and I'm okay to sit in that place for a long, painful period of time and not have to be like, well, let me tell you what's up. So yeah, maybe I should think about the gospel more in other places as well.
That's really good. I love that quote, that God didn't call you to be right, called you to be close. And there's so many things that Jesus calls us to that we can bring into our own life, but maybe that's a big one for 8s. Or, dealing with your sense of control. I mean, your cancer and the whole experience showed you're not in control of anything. God's in control. And we can live in a way that we're just in denial. And those moments can be eye-opening, for sure.
I think it's very interesting. You mentioned you had cancer. When we talk about, we've had like early trauma in our lives, things like this, where cancer, our dad died. There is something, I think, in 8s that's like, when the trap would be like, we don't need you. We can do it ourselves. We're strong. We're powerful. And that only gets you so far, And that's the image you give off. And then somewhere along the way, you realize, nope, that's not it. That's not leading me to a place that.
And it's funny. I would say, Nick, when I got cancer, and I was like, most people don't need something that big to knock them over the head and say, are you paying attention? Did you really give your life to me? You really trust me? You really giving me control? I happen to need something that big to be like, are you paying attention?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And that was literally going to be my encouragement to you guys, is like finding those ways of not needing to be in control of everything and recognizing that God already has that control. And he is the one in control. And so, that's a big deal, big learning thing for 8s. So.
Oh yeah. And I don't think I always do it well, in a leadership position, for sure. I hope I'm always getting better, but I think relationally in my marriage, that's been a big thing. Like, that's the one spot that I say, like, I don't cry very often, don't get emotional, but have learned that it's okay for sure in that relationship. And yeah, D gets all the things. I know, lucky guy, right? But it's very freeing to have a spot that you can say, I can be 100% vulnerable with Jesus and with my husband. And I think I've gotten better, with my kids, of saying like, I'm wrong, or even being emotional with them and being like, I have feelings too. And sometimes my feelings get hurt because I was so tough with them growing up. I think they're like, do you really have feelings? So anyway, I think getting to that spot in life for me has been a big deal. Like I said, to say,
This is one of my favorite all time, but like 2019, 2020, I was in quite a bit of counseling and just a lot of things going on in my life. And I was sitting with my counselor, and at one point he just said, hey, I want to ask you a question. Where do feelings come from? And I said, I don't understand the question. And for me, I'm just like, yeah, that's about it. And I don't want to spend, because feelings is vulnerability. Vulnerability is a weakness. And you just keep going down that road. And eventually you learn, at least this has been my journey, you learn that vulnerability actually is the key. But it is so tough.
Yeah.
It's so tough. And every time, I still tell Vanessa, my wife, this, like, every time I know I should be vulnerable, there's an inside voice going, don't do it.
Don't say it.
Don't say it. If you say it, they will not respect you. They will weaponize it. They'll use it against you. And it's never happened. But that voice still goes, don't do it. And you start wigging out and you start doing it. And so that's the exercise I feel like for me as an 8 is to keep coming back to that and go, no, I'm going to tell them that hurt. That hurt. That made me feel this, or to spend some time in those feelings is not natural to do. Or maybe some other numbers.
Wow.
They get there a little quicker. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. The hard work that you've done, the hard lessons that you've learned, being willing to be vulnerable, being willing to be transparent is going to help people that are listening to this. So thank you guys. Did a great job.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Do you think that the 8's the best number?
In our world right now.
And that's the way to end. Do you think we're right? In control, the best. That's it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Peace out, Carver.
Nah. Absolutely.
It all came together. But thank you guys so much for watching and for listening. We are to wrap up our series. Can you believe it, Mitch? We're going to wrap up.
I know, man.
You
we've spent a
ended it?
lot of time together.
We have.
Nick.
Mitch and I have gotten closer.
That's
We
cute.
have.
You're
Your friends.
Spent a lot of time
Because
together.
these conversations are deep.
Yeah.
And, I ask you a lot of Enneagram questions about myself. I have to tell myself not to because I want to be like, would an Enneagram 6 say this? Would, whatever.
The fact that you're texting and asking.
I keep it to a minimum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's going to be on the 9 with you?
Is it?
We can say it.
Matt McDonald and Nicole
Wilson.
Yeah.
And you. So you've got.
Oh, and me. Yeah.
And so you've got 3 9s.
So this, yes.
That's a lot
3
of
9s.
peace.
We've only had one other episode with 3 6s in the room.
Yeah.
It was 3 6s. The conversation goes a little bit longer because there's 3 perspectives that we can actually pull from.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
Hey, can I tell you something that Matt McDonald will do? He's going to come in this room and he will, because he's a tall dude, but he's going to say something to the idea of like, hey, this is not made for like a big person. That's what he's going to say. I guarantee it. And when he does, just go, Matt, Cody said you would
love
say
it.
that. Yeah.
I love it.
Well, it's just not really this chair. That's his
That's his go-to?
That's his whole MO.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a video of him on my phone right now imitating the way you walk and the way you run. Okay, so I can show you that after this.
Oh,
can
and
show
it's
you.
very slow.
It's very slow.
I love it.
Hey, I've been trying to wrap this episode up for about 5 or 10
Wrap it
minutes. But love you guys. Thank you.
Thanks,
Share this
Matt.
with people around you and make sure that everyone that needs to hear this, needs to watch this, gets a chance to. So love you guys, and we'll catch you next time.